The specialists, Phil and Blake, are back, and today we are going to be recapping the premiere of Deal or No Deal Island season number 2. Will and I recapped season 1 last year. Will actually did the finale all by his lonesome because I wasn't around for it. So Will did the finale of the season by himself. So you can go check out our season 1 coverage if you're just happening to tune in and being like, I like this show, I want to see what it's about. Will's not going to do this one with me this year. He's going to be doing the Traders instead. Blake is going to fill in. He's going to be the Will for this.
I'm going to will in, bro.
Oh, he's willing in, and he's already here with the puns. Oh my God. It's never going to get better than that, is it?
No, the deal that I accepted was watch a show that I have no idea about. And the no deal I gave Phil back was I'll start watching as long as Dr. Phil's on. And then already in episode 1, there's no Dr. Will. So what the hell is going on?
I know. I thought it was funny that Dr. Will wasn't there to start, because obviously for Deal or No Deal Island season 1, Boston Rob is the only famous person on the show. And Boston Rob's there from day 1, and he ends up making it all the way into the final episode, which is pretty huge for the show because that worked out for them. But he was the only famous person there. Whereas on this season, you're actually starting with just Parvati, or that's what they think. Most people don't recognize David, which makes sense because you have to be such a massive Survivor fan that you're watching Australian Survivor. And in the US, most people aren't going to seek out Australian Survivor. And then you also have Dr. Will, who's coming in late. Now, the hype had been that Dr. Will was on this season, so I was surprised. And you know Dr. Will better than I do, which is why it's all
that's why I'm
so
here.
Good that you're doing this. And by better than I do, I mean, I saw his cameo on House of Villains in season 1. That's the extent of my Dr. Will knowledge. Why is Dr. Will getting the build up and Parvati's not?
I think Parvati, we're going to talk about this later too. Parvati's had more opportunities, and more recently, like Dr. Will showed up on Traders and then walked away or whatever. Like Dr. Will is, I think what's happening is all the people that started watching reality shows 20 years ago are now like in the point of like, I'm making the shows now. And like, what would I like? And it's like, well, one of my favorite people is Dr. Will. Should we bring him back? And there's nobody going like, yeah, don't do that. And like, I am here to watch Dr. Will, and I'm excited, but Dr. Will doesn't ever win competitions. His thing is all mental. And as I'm watching Deal or No Deal Island, and they're explaining how every decision you make during the challenge is way more important than like, can you, like the only social decision is like, are you going to play or not? And can you trick the person who has the most money to give you that opportunity? And I'm like, I don't know if there's enough decision points for Dr. Will to run circles around people. But then I guess you are like, even in our first challenge of the pyramid stuff, it's like, did we mix around the cases? And like somebody, I have no idea what I'm watching because I did not watch season 1. In my mind, I'm like, how are you not just, I'll run through the jungle and grab 4 cases. Like, was there a way they could lose? Like, did Luke make such a blunder? They would have lost in every other scenario where Luke isn't stupid. Like, the math is, these are big numbers. It's not 2 votes versus 3 votes in Survivor is easy math for an audience to understand. But when it's like 7-digit number versus 7-digit number and barely off by a 6-digit number, you're like, is this close?
Well, here's the deal. Here's the deal. And you don't have to watch Deal or No Deal Island season 1 to understand this.
Great.
What Luke did was the stupidest decision you could do in this game. Willie D says it right here. Luke was an idiot the entire episode. I'm not going to harp on Luke being dumb here because it seems like that's already happened based on the stuff that I've gone and seen. And he seems like he's being a good sport about it. He had a pretty funny interview with Dalton Ross after getting knocked out, where he got locked in the women's room.
Watches this stuff too.
Yeah. Dude, this is a bigger show, especially with the people they're putting on. NBC's doing a good job with this. But I just want to say this. If you're presented with an option where there's 3 of you, and then everybody else has like the different numbers, and you're being told one is the middle and one is the high, you never pull from the middle of the known entity. They literally could not win this unless they pulled the $1 million case, because he pulled from the middle known entity. Now, granted, the lowest number case in the highest, in the most useful ones, was $500,000. But at the same time, what is insane to me, and this is what makes the least amount of sense, they all saw while standing on the pyramid, they all saw what the briefcase numbers had. So they know what numbers are on the one side of the pyramid.
That's what I'm not getting is like,
yeah. So what I'm saying is, like, when they're standing up there getting ready to slide down, for anybody who's listening at home and is confused by what I mean, when they're getting ready to take the zip line down, they can see the numbers that the people who cross the rock path are going to pull from. So you know the numbers are 500,000, 600,000, 750,000, and $1 million, which means you know that those numbers are higher than anything that has been revealed by the other people. You never pull from the other people. It makes no sense. And granted, they still could have lost had they pulled a 500 or had they pulled a 600. The whole thing was they had to pull a 750 or had to pull a 1 million in order to be able to win this. But it just made me laugh so hard because I'm like, you never do that. And you knew the other amounts. You didn't know who had them, but you knew what the amounts were, to the point that you knew you couldn't pick a lower number than 450,000.
Ryan, focus. Traders hasn't even come on yet, bro.
It's gonna be Thursday night at midnight. We're gonna do it right after the episodes on Thursday night.
I that is something that I was like, okay, which one was back? Which one was last year? Steel was or Swap was?
Steel was there last year. Swap was not. So Swap was new.
Is brand new.
And the
so
thing with Swap is then you know that you're giving them an amount of money to take an amount of money, whereas with Steel you're just taking an amount of money and they get zero.
Right. Which, like, Steel has to be, you go after Parvati's team, and Swap is like, now that I know the number, that number's higher, and you go after both teams. Like legitimately, you said I don't want to go after him, but Blake will go after him. I was so like, look at Luke. He's so fun to watch. He's so interesting. Not for me. I was like I think that's part of what we're talking about, of what are we doing 20 years later for some of these reality stars. Parvati started back when we were in high school now, and I've been out of high school for 14, 15 years. And so is it fun to watch Suri own people on the traders? Is it fun to watch Boston Rob get 4th place last year? Spoilers, I looked him up. Is it fun to watch our favorite reality stars?
Watch him get 4th. It was. He was. I'm not the biggest Boston Rob fan. He was so fun on the first season of this. He was great.
Is it fun to watch like basically what we're doing is we're grabbing Shaquille O'Neal and being like, this is somebody that's heard about basketball before. You guys are going to be in a dunk competition. And like at a certain point, you are rooting for Shaquille O'Neal because he's the only one who has like an actual pedigree. But at a certain point, are you like, of course Shaquille O'Neal is going to win. Like, why are we surprised? Or like, oh, his back goes out right at the final thing or whatever. And that's what I'm thinking about with Parvati and David. I don't know David either. I've not watched the Golden Gods. So the 4 flashes of his season that they showed was competition win, and then himself smiling. So I'm assuming he's going to be very good at competitions. And like,
which is funny because on Australian Survivor, that's not his thing. Like, he is more of a strategist for sure. And now I can say that, people, if you're not a patron, patreon.com/specialist, I've been going through Australian Survivor, and I'm like almost halfway through All Stars. So I've seen plenty of David at this point.
And I just watched most of that hour and a half. I because it's on streaming, you can push the 10 seconds forward button whenever you get a little bored. But like, there's 1, 2, 3.
No, you can't do that and recap.
9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Which I never did this time at all. There's 14 people to start off. So of these 14 people, besides our 2 all-stars, that means there's 6 men and 6 women. Of those people, how many do you remember after this episode, and how many of those people are you pumped to root for moving forward?
I can actually name, I think, most of them.
Cool.
I actually do think I can. Sydnee is fun TV. She may, I don't know what the proper term is, so I'm just going to say she may be horny. because the way she is going after David is actually hilarious, and it's making for amazing TV. So take the PC way that you want to say horny. That's what
Oh,
I'm
it's
going
actually
with.
13. I counted Dr. Will by accident.
Okay,
Sorry.
but here it is. Like Sydnee's great TV though. Like Sydnee's fun. Sydney understands the assignment. Dixon, love it. Love that we have mom and dad with Dixon. Dixon's their son. Also, the fact that Dixon's story is that like he was literally given away to like a white family. I think that's an interesting story that's actually going to develop pretty well on this show. And I feel like Dixon is this season's oh my God, what was his name? Was it Andy? What was Deal or No Deal? I gotta find, I can't remember. I can see his face so perfectly in my head. He was the best part of the first season. And no, and it's somebody that he could be on future seasons for sure. Aaron. Is that what you said?
That. Yeah.
Aaron. So Aaron was amazing TV, and that's what it seems like they're doing with Dixon. Seychelles, she is definitely somebody that Blake as a teenager would have loved. I don't know if Blake in his mid-30s is going to love her, but she seems like the exact person that if we were doing Every Season Matters of Deal or No Deal Island, you would have been like, oh my God, back when I was 16, she was the greatest thing ever. I wanted her to murder every single person on that island because it would have been so funny. Yeah, because that's what you do. And then who else was there? Lachelle was pretty good. I didn't get anything from Rock except for the fact that he has a beard and he was combing his hair, I think. Storm is jacked out of his mind, but they had that last season too. And honestly, the more muscular guys didn't really do much. Anybody else that I can think of? And then we had CK. She was the one she really like kept on like harping on the percentages, which we'll talk about the end of this game because it's something that they haven't fixed. And then, yeah, David. I mean, so I know most of them. MG, I don't know her at all. But then David, Willie D says, David saying, I think she actually wants to eat me was so fun. I mean, it's amazing. It's like Sydney gets what she's out there to do. And it's funny that she doesn't recognize David, but is like swooning over David anyway. So that's what I got. And then Lette. Yeah, I think that's how you say her name, Lete. She was pretty good too. She was the volleyball player. I actually haven't clicked anything, but like I remembered pretty much everybody's name. I might have missed a couple people, but I remember pretty much everybody. Who did I miss?
Gay guy. Thanks a lot.
Oh,
bro.
Philip. No, Philip's good too. I like Philip. I don't think he's going to be good at the game, but I think he's leaning into the fact that he's on a reality TV show.
I thought one thing as I'm watching, I'm like, the trailer's spoiling everything. And then it looks like as we're watching the trailer, it's mostly just first and second episode stuff. So I'm like, oh, okay. Obviously, Philip and Parvati are standing in front of a shed, and it goes, if you open this, we're going to let Dr. Will into the game. And they're like, you come here to risk to miss it. I think that's the only thing that I did not connect with was like Luke being like, you got to go for the red case. Like, you got to go for, like, I in my spot, we roll our sleeves up and go for red cases. And like, what are you talking about? Like why would you want to be in control of the banker or be the high case at all for like the first 5 or 6 eliminations? Like, wouldn't you just want to play the middle the whole time? Or is there a strategy I'm not aware of?
No. So the strategy of this was actually to go, in the middle. You don't go for the safe route. You don't go through the jungle. You go across the walkway. And like Joe Mangiello kept saying, he was saying that if you don't make it across, you get $0. We're not going to see that happen in this type of challenge. Like everybody was going to ultimately get across that. So if you go that route,
get 0 last time.
There were a couple, but that's beside the point. But like on this one, you go across. There's 4 cases. You can see the amount of those 4 cases. The jungle, because that is going to be 5 people. It's going to be the most people. That is supposed to net you the least amount of money every time. Because for example, let's say David and Luke, let's say Luke actually played this correctly. Luke would have stolen from the team that had the most amount of money, which was the ones who were going across and onto the pyramid. Those people, at best, at worst, he gets $500,000. So he has $575,000. Now they get to go and steal from the other side. The highest amount over there was $450,000. So you're at 1.025 million, right? Which is essentially what they ended up with anyway. But how this is actually designed is that the team that goes for the 4 cases that everybody can see, they're always going to be one of the top 2 teams. Because even if they lost the 1 million, they are still worth like 1.8 million. Both teams can't catch them. This challenge is supposed to be punishing the team that goes for nothing or harming the team that went for broke but guessed incorrectly. And what's so funny is they blew this so bad. Luke blew this so bad that the team that went through the jungle actually ends up coming out of this looking brilliant, because they're like, oh yeah, we just went and chilled. We didn't do anything dangerous and we weren't really a part of anything. But Luke is 0 times out of a million supposed to make the decision that he made.
Yeah. And I feel like there was 6 people that went through the jungle. So there's like a chance that you just talk your way out of it. Like, oh, I have to talk to the person that had the $1 million case, and I have to talk to the person that is going to be in charge. And it's like, you can't talk to 2 people out of 13 to stay like that's something where I think this is a mix of Survivor. There's a little bit of Big Brother in this, where it is like, okay, these people that you bring from those shows, Dr. Will had to convince one person a week on his show that he won, like, don't put me up. Like, I'm a bigger target for next time. And then whenever he was up for elimination, had to convince like 7 people, like somebody else is a bigger threat. And so like seeing Dr. Will, he's got white hair now or gray hair. He looks, he is a plastic surgeon, just so you know that's what his doctor is. So maybe there's some plastic surgery of his, but like I am looking forward to him. I did in my brief look at Deal or No Deal Island is coming up on NBC. Here's what you need to know. There was somebody, I think it was the WWE girl. Which girl is the girl who's like, I was in WWE. I was
yeah.
Okay. I'm wondering if she's going to be a major character or not, but I think she was the one who was like, I don't give a shit if you're Dr. Will or not. And I think this is the duality of Blake of like, I just said, like, is it fun watching our old reality stars just dunk on people, but then also being like, you need to respect Dr. Will's name of like, because she was like, I wasn't even born when he won his season. It's like, of course, like I can't be like, I can go up to Shaquille O'Neal. I wasn't even, some of these people weren't even born when Shaquille O'Neal was winning NBA championships. And you're going to be like, Shaquille O'Neal's probably trash. Like he's not as good as the new people that are in the NBA now. And you're like, bro, you just weren't around. Which I think is interesting because when we were kids, reality, there wasn't a 20-year reality TV head runway of like stuff to know about, or like there's not reality stars from 1985 that we're trying to be like. What I'm trying to say is in the NBA started in like 1900 something, and like this is almost like a new sport of reality TV that started in 2001. Yes, there's not a governing body that gives an MVP out, and there's not playoffs, but there is the same type of feel of like a Dr. Will is just exciting to me as somebody that was on the Dodgers this year. 20 years from now will be. I'll treat Mookie Betts just like I treated Dr. Will.
And that's why it's funny, like when Stephanie LaGrossa plays the Traders, when Cirie plays the Traders, when like Cirie we hadn't seen on our TVs in a Survivor setting. I mean, yeah, we saw her on season 34. She wasn't the biggest character on that season by a long shot. But yeah, like you're going to be excited about that. And I actually think Deal or No Deal Island is a good balance for famous people, reality TV stars, whatever you want to call them. I think it's a good balance of reality TV stars and nobodies. The Traders is a bad version of that. And why the Traders is a bad version of that is because there's too much manipulation that goes into the Traders. And if you've played reality TV before, you know how to manipulate a little bit better. And even though people have preconceived notions about how you're going to act, these people like Parvati and like what we saw Cirie do the first time she played, she's able to get over on everybody because she knows she's already been through the ringer of figuring it out. A show like Deal or No Deal Island, at the end of the day, you, Blake, could go up there and play against the banker. You win, and then you could just point your finger and say, David, you're out today, as long as he's one of the eligible people to go home. And there's no manipulation that David can do to save him. So like Boston Rob would manipulate last season, but it was the typical Boston Rob shenanigans But at the end of the day,
If we all stick together, we all make money.
He didn't make it to Final Four because of the Boston Rob shenanigans. He made it to Final Four because most of the time he just wasn't in danger of going home. So that's where I think this actually works better, because Parvati, everybody knows who Parvati is here. But it's not like they can all just say, okay, tonight Parvati goes home. Well, Parvati won. She was safe. She was immune. Multiple people are going to be immune every time. So you can't just point your finger and say, Parvati, you're done. And if you put her up against the banker, she can beat the banker and then she's safe. So I think that this is a better version of all of that. And last season, just so you know, if you're looking for an edit, Jordan, who won last season, was like non-existent the entire season. Like, she was so minor of a character the whole time. So this is not a show like a Survivor. I didn't watch Big Brother or anything, but like, it could be something where like MG could be the winner of the season. And I don't even know if I'm getting the initials right on that.
Yeah. I think the other thing that I thought was super funny, I'm trying to watch this as casually as possible. I'm not trying to like, let me go deep
No Deal Island casual.
Yeah, like, and I think one of the funniest things is when we're talking about Survivor of like a brilliant move. It's like getting 5 people to look one way. The brilliant move that's going to be talked about by every Deal or No Ideal podcast is Parvati switch the case. And you're like, what? That's all? That's all they had to do?
Yeah.
Like, you fell for that?
But you know what's funny is if Parvati wasn't saying that, I don't know if they would have switched the cases. That's what's funny. Like, and that's where when you're playing some reality TV stars against non-reality TV stars, what did David and Parvati both do? They didn't take the jungle route because they both knew the jungle route was the pitfall. But David can't think and speak for Luke. So ultimately, the people who actually made the bad decision were rewarded when they should have never been. And if you were one of the people who was in that other group, you were always going to be safe. Parvati's group, Parvati did the right thing. She was always going to be safe. They don't know what the numbers in the jungle are, but even if they would have taken the million, it wouldn't have made a difference. So like, yeah, but that's how simple it is, right? Just take the $1 million.
And one thing that I'm confused about as such a casual watcher, you get immunity as the person who has the most money.
If you have the highest case, you are the one who gets to pick who goes in from the people who are.
But your whole team has immunity, so everyone has immunity.
But
so now you're just the only person that pisses people. Why would you not pass the case off every time?
Exactly, Blake.
What
exactly?
No,
that's the point. That's the point, though. No, but that's the dilemma, right? Because like last season, we would see people constantly being like, "Well, I want to get Boston Rob out of the game," but then if you put Boston Rob up, you're safe that week. But then as soon as Boston Rob or his alliance, air quotes, can get rid of you, they're going to get rid of you. So it puts you in a weird spot. I like that dynamic, though, because you are constantly trying to work the numbers. And like Dixon said in this episode, I just want to play as middle of the road as possible. I don't care, because if Dixon makes the wrong decision, goes into the jungle. But if Dixon ends up surviving that, going into the jungle, like, and even if his team was the one that got the least amount of money, which is how this was designed, Dixon would have been safe because nobody's looking at Dixon saying, man, got to get him out of here. So.
Okay. And then we played Deal or No Deal for 20 minutes every episode, or was this just a longer one because it was the first one?
This was definitely a longer one because it was the first one, but pretty much every episode ends with them playing Deal or No Deal. And so this is Luke's. I mean, look, Luke played terribly. I mean, like Luke didn't do anything right. And what it comes down to,
roll tide.
Yeah, roll tide, high tide. I just keep thinking about that stupid commercial with high tide. If you get better odds than 50%, you should almost always take the deal. That is the whole point of playing Deal or No Deal. You're not actually getting this money, right? This money just gets added together to create the most money in a case. So right now they have $1 in their case. I forget what it was last year.
Whenever it was $220,000, I was like, why is he not taking it?
Well, and that was the mistake, right? When it went to 218 and he had 600,000 left, $1 and 500. You always take that deal because you have a 66% chance of making a good deal. Those are some of the best odds you can get. The thing is, by opening the next case, whether he opens $1, $500, or $600,000, his odds drop to 50%. His odds drop every single time by opening another case. Because if he opened 600,000, which is what he did, Now it comes down to a number between 1 and 500. It's a 50% chance. If he opens $1, comes down to a number between 500 and 600,000, 50% chance. Like, it's very easy, basic math. So if you get a 67% chance, it's almost the best you're ever going to do. And Will and I talked about it a lot last year. You're actually almost better off getting a really low case and knocking out the low numbers, because then the number will be super high and you could get yourself to like a point of 75 or 80% chance.
I think one thing too, if you're not aware of Deal or No Deal in my mind is a almost unwinnable game. It's all luck. From me watching it, Howie Mandel started out like 2003 or 4, and it went on for years. They could not give $1 million away on that show. They literally,
once you got a good deal, you're not going to keep going for it.
So every other show that had $1 million grand prize gave away $1 million probably within the first 2 seasons. But Deal or No Deal had a thing where they kept adding $1 million cases. And I think you could go look this up on Wikipedia. I remember it caused a resurgence. There's some people I know in real life, like the camp counselor at the camp I went to for a week was on Deal or No Deal and told us a whole bunch of this stuff whenever I was a junior in high school. It's all kinds of stuff of this, like, it's impossible to get $1 million. So they gave 10 to 12 cases before somebody finally lucked into getting one of those 12 of 25 cases, or I think it's 24. I think the whole right side was filled up minus a couple. And that's how there
were $5 million cases. And that was the first I'm looking at it right now. 2008, first top prize winner of the American version during Deal or No Deal $1 million mission. And there were 5 $1 million cases.
They wanted to give out $1 million. I lied and said it was more than 5, but I remember it being like, this is insane. And even through that, I think it still took like weeks and weeks during the $1 million mission to give away $1 million. So
and there were only 2 people who ever won it.
So if you're thinking you're coming on Deal or No Deal Island and going to add $1 million to the pot every round, I know they're saying this is the biggest pot in $1 Million Mile history or Deal or No Deal Island history. It's just, you take your first time you have 6 figures, hope and hope that you're still in afterwards. Like that's what it should come down to. I didn't even watch last year, but fingers crossed, you know.
All it comes down to is if you get odds of 60% or better, you should take it. I mean, that's
like a rock, paper, scissors level thing.
I froze. Sorry, everybody. I froze.
You're back.
I tried to open up another tab and my computer can't handle opening tabs right now.
Oh my God.
If you want to win this game, the goal is to just get a better than 60% chance. The worst case scenario is if you have $1, $5, $100, and then $600,000, because you're going to get an offer that's going to be in between. And then you have to keep playing it out where the offer might be $10,000. Well, that $10,000 is way less than $600,000, but it's still greater than 4 case amounts that are left. So you kind of want to be able to go back and forth on the board so that you can maybe just get it to the point of, okay, there's 5 cases higher than what I have left and 3 cases lower than what my offer is. So I'll take that deal. And he totally missed the opportunity here. He was in a golden position, which everybody was telling him except for Sydney, who didn't understand it, which was funny. But he was in a golden position to get a really good deal because he could have gotten $218,000. It doesn't matter that he only has $1 in his case. It doesn't matter how much he's adding to the final case. It's just the fact that he stays alive in the game and now gets to pick somebody to go home, which it seems like it would have been Seychelles. So, that's it.
Seychelles, she's probably my least favorite tonight. Of like, nothing she said really made sense. And she was kind of like, this guy sucks. And I was like, this guy does suck, but you gotta.
That was a line. This bitch.
Yeah, and like, I don't know. It is interesting too. Of like, one thing that this show does seem to be leaning in towards is everyone is very attractive, and everyone is in skimpy bikinis, and everyone is like, Storm is probably the hottest person that would have been on Survivor in the last 5 years. Some of these girls are the hottest girls that would be on Survivor in the last 5 years. And it is like, oh, is that what the show is? Of like, and the one thing I don't understand is Joe Mangiello is like, these are the two people that we have on staff full time. And they're like, thanks for the respect, Joe. And it's like, they're not hotter than the contestant though. So I'm like, are they supposed to be the hot
I don't know,
deal or
man.
no
People
deal?
were going pretty hard over Ben last season. I know that.
I mean, okay, great for Ben. Respect,
Yeah.
man. It is funny I just remember that used to be a draw for Survivor, maybe, especially as we're watching some of these older seasons on Every Season Matters, where I'm like, we don't have, I don't know where I'm going with this, but I remember we have 5 girls talking in the ocean, and like some of these people have the skimpiest bikinis I've seen on reality TV in a long time.
Well, and we got in the preview that you were talking about with the spoilers, like we got some people making out saying, I'm going to make this Deal or No Deal Island and Love Island.
I mean, and good for her, you know. Storm, there's a storm coming, you know, bro. And like, as someone who's in a firestorm/windstorm in Los Angeles right now, it's nice to see a regular storm on my TV every once in a while.
And you still managed to pocket. What's your air quality at now? Let's give people an idea of you podcasting right now. You texted me this morning. You're like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do this.
I told you it was 448, and normally 100 is a bad score. Yeah, it now the sunlight coming through the clouds is a tint of orange through the windows, and it's very scary.
I'm glad. I'm glad you're on the other side where you're at least safe from it. It's crazy what's happening out there right there. Let's throw up some comments here. We got Roy Job. I found Sydnee to be super annoying. And we got Willie D saying Sydnee also not a numbers guy. LOL. Yeah.
Sydnee is a numbers girl. Duh.
No, Sydnee was struggling. Sydnee's going to be an interesting one because I feel like Sydnee's going to be one of those people they're going to constantly want to get rid of. But if Sydnee actually gets her way and is able to play with David, I don't know if they'll ever have the lowest amount, right? Because like that's the whole point of the game is just don't be the lowest amount. And I do think that David can probably carry people through. Now, granted, there might be individual games. There could be pair games. There could be triple game. Like, who knows? But, yeah, that's the case here.
One thing, I don't think I'd be very good at playing Deal or No Deal Island because I do think my thought process of how you kind of play these games is you single people out and then do your best to eliminate them. And that's kind of people don't really like that way of playing Big Brother, but it's very successful. That's kind of how Boston Rob has almost won 2 seasons of Survivor. And it feels like it's almost impossible to be like, I really don't like Dixon. Everyone should go after Dixon. Let's get rid of Dixon and have that work out because Dixon has a challenge he can win, a person he can talk to. And then even if all of that fails, he
has a get out of jail free, which is play the game and win.
Yeah. You're like, oh, damn. Like, maybe it is play as kumbaya as possible or be like, that's one thing that I haven't seen in a while. Maybe I don't like think about it in board game life of, do you like playing competitive board games or when somebody pulls out a cooperative board game, are you like, oh, I want to do this, or cooperative board games are pointless? And this feels like the most cooperative reality show we're going to work on. And then somebody's just going to win at the end. And I hope it's me. And it does behoove you to be as cooperative as possible for probably the first 8 episodes. And then you have one big move and then win out challenges. It would be my strategy here.
Yeah. I mean, you want to be able to make everybody as happy to see you as possible every morning, but not to the point where it's like, oh, because if you can avoid playing Deal or No Deal, you have a very good chance of going deep in this game. And I don't remember from last season. I'm scared to try to open it on my computer. So I'm going to try to open it on my phone here. I don't remember, but I do believe that I don't know if Jordan ever actually played until obviously the very end. Let me look.
What does the green thing mean? Excursion one. She only won 1 excursion.
Mm-hmm.
And she never challenged the bank.
I don't think she ever. How do you see? Does it say who won? Yeah. So Jordan, save. She never. Oh, she played. Yeah, she won in episode 9. Yeah, she never played with the banker. So like you don't have to go in there. Whereas Amy made one deal and was in the bottom twice. And then Stephanie, who was also in there, made a deal, was in the bottom twice. And then Rob made one deal and just kept winning excursions, which was no shock. So yeah.
When I do stuff in my hometown, I pull up my sleeves and I get to work. The only other thing that I thought was like, bro, what am I supposed to get from this? When Philip goes, I know who Parvati is. She played Survivor 3 times. I was like, okay, it's 4, first of all. Second of all, why are we keeping that in? Why are we not telling Philip it's actually 4? Hey, Philip, let's reshoot that. Or like, obviously, are you keeping the mistake in? Does everyone at NBC think she's only played 3 times? Does Parvati even forget the 4th time she played? Or does Philip not count one of those because he's like, Parvati's my queen? Did Philip never watch the race season called Cook Islands? Because he's like, no,
maybe he
I
just
didn't
didn't watch Winners at War because he didn't want to know.
Or maybe he was about to watch Winners at War and he thought Parvati wasn't coming on that one. I don't know, man.
But it was funny to see how like everybody knew who Parvati was except for Luke. Like everybody was figuring it out, and then Parvati was like, "Don't tell anybody. No, like you're the only one who knows." And then as soon as it was David who found out, now is David on Australia versus the World?
They are both about to do this all over again.
Okay, which filmed first, this or Australia versus the World?
This is first, allegedly. This is first. Yes, this is first. Okay. This is first. I didn't mean to say allegedly. We know for sure this is first.
This was filmed
because
first.
Some people on reddit.com/survivor thought we're like, ha ha ha, you're gonna have to watch Deal or No Deal Island to get their Kim test of what they're gonna do on Survivor versus America.
So Willie D is saying Deal or No Deal Island filmed first.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, that's what you're saying. Yeah.
I'm trying to say that. Yeah.
I wonder if they already knew that they were doing Australia versus the World when they did this, and that's where it's like, hey, we should be like super extra nice to each other right now.
Or maybe Parvati wasn't even considered, and then David was like, put Parvati on. We just had a great experience on Deal or No Deal Island.
I mean, I have a hard time thinking she wasn't considered, considering it's Tony, Suri, and Parvati.
I have an actual question for you, Phil.
I'm listening.
Do you like seeing these stars from one show? I guess being on Survivor is a little different because Survivor's Survivor. It makes sense. What do you think about seeing these other reality stars show up on shows? Is it a good trend? Is it a negative trend? I work in casting, so I think it could be eliminating some of my job, which is a little sad. But
I don't think it'll ever eliminate your job because at the end of the day, you still have to cast, even if you're doing returning players, you have to cast the returning players correctly so that it's worth watching, right? I mean, the traders can be bad if the traders aren't playing well. I mean, season 2 of the traders really wasn't that good. I don't really care what people say. It wasn't that good. And I feel like for a show like this, it's kind of fun. I had said I was going to apply to Deal or No Deal Island. I feel like I still should have. I feel like this is like a show that like would make sense for me to be on more than Survivor, which is a shame, Blake, because you were talking about like the really good looking thing, like that really would help me. But like, I feel like
you need to be able to go to the bathroom instead of just hope for the best.
Exactly. That's true. I actually need to keep a properly bodily function, so I don't end up in an emergency room again. But no, the thing is, like, I feel like they look for numbers people on this, right? And I think like the fact that I work in sports gambling is like what I work in. I feel like that could be like, oh, like, look, like I feel like people really lean into it. The one thing I will say is like, look, Dr. Will is going to eat up all the screen time as soon as he comes back. Parvati is going to eat up screen time, whatever. I like the casting of David, and I like bringing somebody from another reality, like from a reality show, but from a different country. I actually think that's an interesting concept.
Because what works in Australia, could it work with our culture, with Americans, or are they too competitive?
But the thing is, like, people don't know him. They don't know him, so he doesn't really have an advantage over them. And I think that's big. Whereas, like, Parvati, everybody's gonna know Parvati. I mean, like, look, when Parvati was winning Survivor, Survivor was still at like its apex. Like, Parvati shows up in so much stuff, and then the fact that she just played the Traders, very few people are gonna go on Deal or No Deal Island, knowing what Deal or No Deal Island is, which is an NBC Peacock show, and not knowing what Traders is. Like, come on.
Oh,
So
Deal or No Deal Island and Traders are on the same network.
they're on the same network. So that's where it's like, of
Technically,
course,
huh?
everybody who knows Deal or No Deal Island is going to know the Traders. It just seemed like Luke didn't know.
Everyone that does Traders will do Deal or No Deal Island afterwards. That's crazy. I don't know why I didn't put 2 and 4 together right there, but that's
I think the
crazy.
key with Deal or No Deal Island, though, is this is one show where it works, where if it's just like 1 or 2 people, or 3 in this case, but again, I'm not really counting David, even though he's well known to the Survivor community, but a very small sect. This is a show where having 1 or 2 famous people works because you can't just immediately get rid of them. So don't turn this into another Traders where it's like going to have 12 people.
It needs to be 12 of them.
Yeah, like I don't need another Traders, because at the end of the day, I want to be able to watch game shows. I don't need to just watch the same reality stars over and over and over again. There's a reason why I've watched 1 season of The Challenge and said, okay, that's enough. Even Michelle Fitzgerald being on the show wasn't enough to make me go watch it. So it's like, I'm done.
Honestly, I'm down to talk shit about The Challenge for 2 hours if anybody ever wants to do that, because that
you guys know how to call them.
That show's over, man.
Yeah. So,
and that's Deal or No Deal Island.
Yeah, you have anything else about Deal or No Deal Island, or are we done?
Who are you rooting? Okay, who are you rooting for to win, and who do you think will win?
I mean, after episode 1, I mean, David's fun. I just like David, so like I would want David to win because that would be fun, and like I don't consider him a plant that would be like, oh my god, it's so annoying he won. I want to see if people figure out he played Survivor. Who do I think will win? Because this show's a crapshoot, let's go Lachelle. Lachelle's going to win.
Interesting. I'm going to go with the WWE chick.
Right, Tang? Yeah.
And
is that who you want to win, or who you think will win?
I think will win. Parvati gets like Dr. Will probably gets 8th place. Parvati gets 6th. David gets 4th, and then it's all newbies in the finals.
Love it. All right, there you go, everybody. That's Deal or No Deal Island, the premiere. I believe this is going to be consistently on Tuesday nights, which is going to pose a bit of a problem. So let me just check and make sure. Deal or No Deal Island. I should have looked this up beforehand, but I didn't feel like it. Yeah, so January 14th. So it's going to be Tuesday night.
On Wednesdays to listen to.
Yeah, so we're going to have to podcast on Wednesdays probably, because Tuesday nights I can't do.
Yeah, I hosted trivia night on Tuesdays, so I can't do it.
That's what I do. Exactly. Thanks for that. Thanks for stealing my identity very briefly. So yeah, Tuesday nights I can't do, so we'll do Wednesdays. But tune in. We'll be back. This is a show that I will definitely keep going. I've already done 1 full season of it. I can do another full. Don't think that this is going to go the House of Villains Dodo way, where we were like, okay, we're enough of that. It's a totally different show, and it's more fun. Thursday night, midnight, we're going to be live doing the Traders recap, Will and I. And then on Saturday morning at 11 a.m., we're going to be live with Mike Bloom, and Will, myself, and Mike Bloom are going to be drafting Survivor 50 tribes. We each get to draft our own tribes. So make sure you tune into that. We're each going to draft tribes of 8, 4 new era, 4 pre-40. That's
I must be chopped liver, I guess.
You are chopped up. We have you for Deal or No Deal Island. We don't have you for that. We didn't need 4 tribes. We just needed 3. So Blake is going to sleep in on Saturday after the Longhorns get blown out on Friday night.
Oh my god!
And that's just going to be his
life.
If
the Longhorns lose, you're going to need to find a new co-host for next week, because
the Longhorns are going to lose. So I guess I'm going
week of my life, dude.
A new co-host. Yeah. Anyway, thank you all so much for listening. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. It's a new year. Become a patron, patreon.com/thespecialist. We're doing everything we've been doing. Movies on Tuesdays, $5 Tuesdays. We got Survivor Rock Draw, casting perspective, which is also Blake. Q&A. I'm doing Australian Survivor. Like I said, I'm into All Stars. Right now, we're doing Every Season Matters. It's Fiji. So tune in. We got plenty going during this off season, which does it even feel like an off season when you're about to cover 3 shows? Because once Australian Survivor comes back, I am going to be doing that on the regular channel. The season that's live, I'll be doing here on YouTube. So thank you all so much for listening. Busy season ahead, and we'll see you all next time.